Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the Real Life Process podcast. I am excited to be back for this week's episode, and I am excited to share with you a conversation with my good friend, Erica Vinson from our team. Welcome back, Erica.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's been a little while, not too long. I think when I was doing the podcast about 4 years of podcasting, I think I threw out your name because I think you have been on more than anyone else as a guest. So you have that accolades or whatever that is of being the most invited guest, partly because you work here on our team at the Real Life Process as our network director. So you might give a little bit of background. What is the network director? Why do we have that title on our team?
Yes. Well, one of my favorite things about the real life process, I've always said it from the very beginning, is connecting with the people behind the process. And so when this role opened up, it really truly is that inward facing. Once people decide from the community of the real life process that they want to be certified and they want to use the process not only for themselves, but in the work that they do, then we do a certification with them and train them. So I have the privilege of coaching those new facilitators and then also just stewarding them through coaching and connection and communication and all the things in the network once they're a part of that inner circle of the real life process.
That is right. And for many of you that listen to the podcast, you're in that community that we have either on Facebook or in our email list or LinkedIn or YouTube or all the places that we connect. And those are all kind of the external places that we connect with people. But then internally, we have people that say, hey, I really want to use the process that you have, these 4 components, these assessments that you have, these ways of being with people and showing up in workshops or trainings or ministry work or coaching or spiritual direction, all the things. And I wear one of those hats, or I'd like to. And so I'd really like to be certified. And that's the word we're going to talk about today is what does it mean to be certified? And why do we use that term? So we work with clients here at the process one-on-one. Erica has clients, I have clients, some of the rest of our team has clients that they work with and that we take through the process or we speak or we do workshops. But then, as my friend Dan Miller says, when people ask you more than once, can I use your content? Can I do this? Could I use a handout that you have or whatever? And when 2 to 3 people start to ask you that, you should pay attention. And so I did back in 2020, and we put together this certification program. We call our certified people facilitators because we really feel like that fits how they show up. And Erica, just say a little bit more about that word facilitator. Like why, we could call our people coaches, we could call them, mentors. Why did we choose facilitator?
Well, I think looking at the network of people that God was bringing, we recognize that although we are coaches and are credentialed coaches, we knew that there were people coming from all walks of helping professions that were drawn to use this content. We have mentors, we have spiritual directors, we have consultants, we have recovery coaches, we have life and leadership coaches. And so the word facilitator really is a great way to kind of give just a banner view of offering, to bring someone along a journey. And so no matter how people are showing up in that forward facing role with their clients, it fits to say, yeah, this is a person who's going to companion me on my journey with this framework.
Right. Like I am going to facilitate somebody walking through this. And so we made the decision early on, back when we put together this certification program, that we didn't really care what title or what hat you wore, as long as you were willing to do kind of some of the work yourself and embody the process. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Then come along with us on the journey and see where God might open doors for this to be content that could come alongside maybe work you're already doing. You mentioned, everything from all different kinds of coaches to people that just like, man, I'd love to bring this into my church, or I'd love to use some of this as part of the spiritual direction work I do, or I mentor kids, or I mentor young adults, and I'd love to bring some of this content to them. So there's all kinds of reasons that you might get certified in something. So besides our process, Erica, I want to open the discussion up to a little bit bigger space of just the idea of certification in general, and why somebody might get certified in anything. There are, we know out in the training world, right? There are assessments, there are processes. There are people that write books, much like we did this last year. We brought out my book on November 1st. It takes you through the process, and there's an invitation at the end of the book. If you'd like to be certified in this process, you can be. So there's all kinds of certifications out there. In your mind, even as the role you sit in on our team and in your own work that you've done, why does certification matter? What would even be the reason someone might say, gosh, I want to be certified in this, whatever this is?
Mm. Yeah, well, I think for anyone that would even call themselves a learner or someone who values discovery or teaching, equipping, empowering others, being a catalyst, those things may then lead you to deeper discovery, to a deeper yearning for knowledge. And so, anytime you dive into knowledge, there is a difference between information and transformation. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as soon as you said that, Teresa, I thought, man, there is an invitation with certification that rather than just gaining information for it to be transactional, that I'm just receiving it and, I can kind of take it for what it is in the season, that there really is a desire to say, I want this to be transformational for me. I'm willing to, you use the word embody this for myself, and to say, there's something deeper for me here that I'm desiring to grow in, and I want to immerse myself in the experience.
Mm.
And so certification really offers that opportunity for an immersion experience, to go all in, if you will, with something, to embody it, because we really can't take people to a place we aren't willing to go ourselves. And
So
so
true.
it offers us that.
So true. And I think that immersion, that all in piece is a part of it. I love what you said as you were listing off those words. If you're a learner, if you're naturally a trainer, it's how I probably received the very first certification I ever did is I read a book and I said, oh my gosh, I want to be able to share this with so many people. Like this resonates with me. And many times when we take in information, that's what happens is when we're really like, this is life changing for me, we say, how could I share this? And one of the ways is through something that's structured, that's put together by the content creator that says, here's a way you could share it out into the world. But those words you mentioned, learner, trainer, whatever, we have a free little tool that we actually have on our website at the REALIFE Process. And then we have the full assessment of what we call needs and values. So when you were listing those words, it reminded me of, if you don't know what your values are, that might be something you want to dive into. And if you see words like catalyst, learner, training, and you're one of those people that's like, why do I always want to, whatever I learn, I want to take it out and help transform the world with this new information. I'm kind of like that. If you know me very well, you know that if I find something, I don't care if it's food, clothing, tech, software, it doesn't matter what it is. If I love it, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to share it. I want the world to know the latest and greatest discovery that I've made. So that could lead you to saying, I'd like to be certified in this. Is just your own desire. Why else might somebody really look to a certification? What are some other reasons?
Well, I think just paying attention to your personality too, and notice how you lean into things. And so, if you're a person, who struggles with the question, I'm not sure I have enough, and you come
Hmm.
from that headspace wisdom, you might even say, a certification would help me feel validated
Hmm.
and credible so that I can step into a space. And for some people, that doesn't matter. Some people can hear something and go, yeah, I understand that and I feel confident in sharing it with others. Some people really value being able to say, no, I've spent some time, I have made an investment in
Hmm.
my own self so that I can show up with you and really facilitate or lead you well in the journey that you're desiring to take.
Hmm. So I do think that, that feeling that validation is a part of it. And I would say there's another piece to the validation is also the I feel empowered to use the tools. So, in many certifications, ours included, there are extra tools. There are extra things that you can use because you have permission. Many times with assessment tools, it's part of going through their certification process. We love the tool, the Enneagram, or there's strengths, or there's Colby, or there's all kinds. We have kind of a signature tool, our needs and values that we just talked about. That's only given and used by our certified facilitators. And, you could have conversations about it. I talk about it in the book, but to actually give the assessment is part of that. You feel validated that I have permission. I have gone deep with this. I've been coached through it myself. I know how to walk someone through this particular thing. And I think that's a certification that we see right now a lot out in the marketplace is on tools. And I often say the process itself, our four components really are just tools that come alongside and help people kind of create this rule of life, this modern day rule of life that we talk about. So those are some of the reasons why you might get certified. Any other thoughts on that before we kind of shift gears here?
Well, as you were just sharing about that, Teresa, it made me think of the imagery. It's actually behind you, in the if you're watching the YouTube video, but the trellis and the vine. And so often a certification can provide a framework or a trellis for a vine to grow. And
Mm,
so our facilitators don't come in and just say, oh, I'm only going to do the work of the real life process, but they receive it as a framework and a tool to say, this is a place to begin. And I can allow the work that I'm developing and that I'm doing and my own brand even to come in. And these are just places where this strengthens the work I do. And so I love that image of the trellis or the framework because
that's a
sometimes
great
we
way.
just need that to
Yeah.
get started.
Well, and I think it goes the other way too, right? So we have people that will come into ours and they've been doing whatever the work is they're doing for years. And they have the trellis, but they see our work as coming along and being part of the vine that grows on the trellis and saying, hey, I want it this way. So many times a certification can be a both and. It can be where you start and where you build the trellis and go, because we do work with, I would say on average, a lot of our coaches or facilitators that come in from whatever walk of life they come are usually in their first 3 to 5 years of business. They're somewhere in that 1 to 5 year range. So they're still building in many ways the work and discovering, I would say, it's not all about the building of the business, but discovering what kind of they're calling out into their life in whatever season they're in is. And so they're either forming that in that trellis, or maybe they've got, a real idea of the marketplace or the value they bring into a certain ministry space. And they're like, wow, this would be a great and then some addition. So many times for certifications, it's a both and. It's one or
Love
the
that.
other. Okay, let's shift gears just a little bit into what are some of the benefits? Because we don't want you to just hear this through the lens of our certification. Um, but this is a question you and I both get asked a lot. Why? Why would it matter? What are the benefits? What value is it going to bring to me if I invest? Very few. I don't know that I know of any certifications that are free. There's usually an investment at some point, but why would you decide? What are maybe some of the benefits that you and I both hear? Why don't you start?
Yeah, I think, ultimately people come sometimes wanting that content, and maybe it is the learning piece that draws them initially, or it's being led by, someone that they've been following in the marketplace or in the spiritual community or whatever it is. And so the chance to sit underneath a leader and learn from them is an attraction. But one of the greatest benefits, I think, that I've experienced personally in going through things like the Transforming Center, that was led by Ruth Haley Barton. I was drawn to it because of the spiritual work. But what I gained from that not only was the practices and rhythms and routines, but was a community of like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
I would say our network, people come for the content, they stay for the community, for the networking. And really, and you highlighted this last week on our weekly network call, it is about being connected with like-minded people,
Mm-hmm.
which creates belonging and the possibility for collaboration that may not have been possible before.
Mm, that's so good because many times you come and you're drawn to a person, drawn to a process. We have had people since the book came out in November that have said, "Oh, I'm drawn to your process. I see how this could work in my own life. Oh, I'd kind of like to share that out with somebody else as well. Okay, I see the value." So I would really look at a certification as both and. Are you personally going to gain something from it, from just the tool, from just the process that you're going to learn, whether it's a coach certification, an assessment certification, a lot of content that you can use in assessments like we have, whatever it is, are you personally going to benefit from it? Because that could be the only reason that you even say, I want to take a deeper dive. And that's okay because you're a learner. You're somebody who wants to improve and do the self-development, the personal development, the soul development. And the second part of that benefit is, where can I show up with this with others in the work that I do? And so I would always want to weigh it as, is it a both and? Because if it's all about just what I'm going to do out there, we all often talk about the being and the doing. Should be a both and. It should be a, wow, this will develop me. This will be something that I'm going to embody, as I said earlier, but this will also be a gift that I can bring into the world. This will be something that I can use in whatever work that I'm doing for the rest of my life. Like, this will really be something that's a tool in your tool belt, is what I often refer to, that I can pull out at different times. I was talking with one of our facilitators last week, and this is exactly what she said to me. And I'm like, yes. So many times when you're in a certification process, there's a time investment. It can be anywhere from, a month to 3 months to 6 months to a year, whatever. Most, I think, would probably wrap up in that time frame. And this particular facilitator said to me, I went into this conversation and, I didn't have to do it word for word, but I was able to just show up and talk my client, and I think she calls herself a mentor, but talked my mentee through the process and ask good questions and just be with them. And I didn't have to have the guidebook, and I didn't have to have the notes, and I didn't have to have anything. And I was like, can we just pause and celebrate that moment? That's part of feeling confident in whatever tool is that you've learned. And that's part of that community piece, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think it's evidence also of a life that really has been changed by the work you're doing. So I love the invitation that you just extended for it to be a both and, that this is something that would move you forward in growth. And it would also be something that you could use for the sake of others. But yeah, what a beautiful, just transformational moment to go, you trusted yourself and you showed up with confidence, just to, we say in the coaching world a lot, dance in the moment and just be present. And the joy that comes in that, it's just immeasurable.
So to be able to do that dance does take some time. And so when you're looking at programs and you're saying, How will I show up and learn this? One of the biggest values that you and I know there is actually to practice it in community. And practice it doesn't always mean, oh, I'm going rote by rote through whatever the thing is I'm learning, whether it's a tool or a process or a coaching program or whatever. Um, but that I'm actually being in community with others and practicing. So I have several certifications. I have a certification in spiritual direction. That was a part of my walk and my journey. I have a certification in ICF credentialed coaching. I have a certification in a tool called the 12-week year. One of the again, that was a book I read and I said, wow, I want to learn this. And so those are 2 or 3 of the things that I'm certified in. What I find interesting is at every point in my journey, that was what I needed then. I've also done the Transforming Community Center that Erica referred to. I needed that at that point. I needed to be embodied in that was a 2-year journey where we went and did, weekend retreats. I actually did it twice. I'm a slow learner. So I did that certification twice with 2 different communities because I just needed to stay in that rhythm and routine and behavior that we often talk about. And then I felt like God was calling me into spiritual direction. That was a 2-year program again. Rhythms of retreat. And as I got through that program, I realized that maybe wasn't exactly, so again, the learning that I did there was maybe that's not exactly the way I show up with people, although I love that. And I found out about coaching. Actually was looking at counseling and looking at maybe going back to finish my degree in counseling. And I looked at coaching and I discovered coaching and I thought, this is more of who I am. But I'm so glad that the spiritual direction training came before the coach training because it created in me a listener and a way of being with others that was different. And then I did the 12-week year program. And then out of all of that, I'll be honest to say, I kind of stirred the pot together with all of those things and said, who am I? And how do I want to be? And from that content, all of that learning, all that discovery over a 5 to 6 year period actually came the real life process and came, this is how I see that it could be shared in the world. And that's how the content became formed, is from that whole journey of my own self. Which we find a lot of people that come into our community that says, I'm kind of figuring this out. I know I want something to come out of me. And we always say, just come along for the ride. God will kind of pull it out of you in all different ways. So how about you? What's been your journey in kind of some of this certification process?
Sure. Well, I started as an elementary teacher. And so I'm by trade, a teacher, and I've done certification in the Harmony Enneagram. And as you
Oh,
mentioned, the
forgot that
ICF.
one.
Yeah, there's another one, yes.
Yeah, there's
Spiritual,
another one.
a certificate in spiritual formation from the Transforming Center. Also an ICF credentialed coach. And as I was listening to your journey, Teresa, I thought the neatest part about that, whether it's your journey, my journey, someone else who's listening, is that nothing is wasted.
Nope.
All of those points along our story, like they come together, as you use that illustration of even mixing things together in the pot. And you often say, like, there's nothing new under the sun, but you're able to bring it together and curate things from a different perspective and be very creative because of the conglomeration that God has brought together in the experiences that you've had.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's true. So you might look at different people's programs, certifications, books, whatever it is, ours included, and say, well, I don't think that's any different than you're right. You're absolutely right. It's probably not. It's actually how they've put it together. And that's one of the things to look at when you're looking at a certification. Do I resonate with this content and how it's put together? Does it kind of make sense to me? It's one of the reasons that God really said, write the book 2 years ago, is write the book so that others can see how you put your process together. And they can see if it resonates with them, not only personally so they can apply it in their own life, but even into maybe the work that God is calling them to do. And I just want to kind of wrap us up with this. I didn't create a certification program because, oh, I want to have a bunch of facilitators out there. But what God invited me to was the fact that I am only one person. You were only one person. Erica's one of our original team members from back in the day. Like, we've been doing this a while, and there's only two of us. So, the way that what we do through the real life process can be out in the world is through others. So rather than to hoard it to ourselves and say, wow, this is great, we love, sharing it, we can only share it so far and so much. But to be able to open up our hands and say, but others could use this, that is the transformation of a certification, at least for us, for our certification. I think is that right there of just saying, how many more? How many more could take this and share it out into the world? And so we do have something coming up that we want to invite you to. It may be for you, it may not. And we were going to talk about that a little bit. You may have everything you need, right? You want to say more about that? You may have it all.
Yeah, you may be. And I think this is something to pay attention to is sometimes we can use our value of discovery and learning as a mask to just stay stuck in the discovery and learning.
Yes.
And like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And it almost becomes this addictive hit. Like, I'm just going to continue. And it actually keeps us from moving forward and doing the work that God has for us with others. And
Oh,
so
such a good point. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so I remember it reminds me of that story. I just talked to you about it. Natalie Ekdahl, one of your mentors, said to you, at one point in your journey, like, stop doing other people's things
Yes.
and really pay attention to the conglomeration of things that you have, been given through your experiences and what's the invitation that's being born out of you in this,
Yes.
which really is where the process came from.
Yes. And you can hear that and go, then why would I need another certification? And I just want to say, that's a great question to ask. Do I? And I'll say this, and please know I'm not calling anybody out. But if I go to someone's website and they have 20 certifications and they're all in different areas, right? Like, I don't even see like how they all build on each other. And because you may go, wow, I love spiritual formation, so I want to learn all these things, or I love executive leadership, so I want to do all of these because they're in that same thing. Like, just really sit with that and go, am I just ping ponging all over the place? Because then the motivation is from a place of, I just need to know something. Because if I know something, they'll come. Like, I'll be able to lean into the work God's needs me to do, or I'll whatever that is. But there's nothing wrong with being a learner, but just sit for a minute and take a breath around, what am I inviting to learn? What is God inviting me to? So we have something coming up that we want to share with all of you. We are actually going to do a master class, and it's on 5 steps to build a thriving coaching business. Now, we do say in this title coaching, but no, whatever seat on the bus that you sit on, that it can be in any of those places. And it's actually going to be on a Tuesday night. And I have to get the time right, because we were going to talk about it in Eastern time, and I probably will say it in Central time. So I want to make sure that I say it in Eastern time. And so 7:00 Central, 6:00 Eastern. Is that right, Erica? I moved back an hour. Yes, that's correct.
Actually goes up. So
Oh,
7 o'clock Central,
7:00 Eastern,
7
6:00
Eastern,
Central.
6 Central.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go to the website. How about that? Go to thereallifeprocess.com. It'll be right at the top of the website, and you can register for this masterclass. It's going to be 90 minutes, and we're going to talk about the 5 steps to building a thriving coaching business. Now, put whatever title you want in there, but there are 5 things that we think are important. Certification is one of them. Could be something that's important, but we have 4 other C's that we're going to talk about. And you may go through this 90-minute masterclass and go, I think I have all of those. So, I just want to lean in. But you may go, wow, that one I'm missing, and that one I'm missing, and that one I need. And we just want to walk you through them so that you can do a little bit of a self-evaluation. around those things, and also come and hang out with us. We're a pretty fun community to hang out with. So go to the website, thereallifeprocess.com. We spell real life with one L, and come and join us in February for this class. Erica will be there. Lindsay will be there. A couple of our team members. And so we can't wait to just kind of have a conversation. This is not a master class where you will only see me. You're going to see everybody. It's actually on Zoom, all the faces on the screen. And make sure you register so that you can get the replay, even if you're not able to be with us live. So, Erica, thank you for joining me today and just talking through this. I know you are a learner, and the certification has been something that you've pursued all your life in many areas, as you talked about. So thanks for coming and having the conversation today.
Well, it's a privilege. And it really, for me, as a learner, I'm one that needs the process because I can get caught in the real self-discovery. And really, that second part of the process moves you to real life action. And so it's really called me to say, okay, so now that you've got this being piece, how are you going to go live it out into the world? And that's where the great real life things happen.
Yeah, those are the everyday moments, right? Those are the spaces.
Absolutely.
In those places. And so we always end the podcast by saying every day, even today on a Monday that we're recording, an ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. So thanks, Erica, for being with us. And we'll be back next week with more from the Real Life Process podcast.